All right, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. When AI meets the neighborhood. So we already established that these data centers, they don't get built in theory. They physically get built somewhere. And if many of you are like me and you've been following this story, many communities have expressed concerns about land use and zoning and power demand, water consumption, even noise. What's going to happen with these diesel backup generators? How is the community actually going to benefit? Because AI don't just need code, it needs permission. And this is what a lot of companies are contending with. Because this is where AI leaves the screen and it enters the neighborhood. When these data centers have to be built somewhere, they get built on the land, the roads, the power lines near water sources in towns where there are people. And once communities start realizing what is actually being proposed, the conversation changes. Because at first, a data center may sound to them like, this abstract ideal. It may sound clean. It sounds like technology. It sounds modern. It sounds like progress. But then the residents start asking more practical questions about how much electricity will it use? How much water will it require? Will it raise local utility costs? Will there be noise from these cooling systems? Where will the diesel generators be? Will traffic increase during the construction period? Will the town get jobs or just all of the burden? Who gets the tax benefit? Who carries the environmental costs? And that's when all of the tension is going to show up. And I'm starting to see it in my own community, even though I haven't heard anything about them trying to build data centers very close to where I am, but I'm seeing it in my utility costs. My electricity bills are skyrocketing. And then I'm also seeing it in the latency on, my just general use of Wi-Fi and internet and things like that. But people in these communities, they're concerned. They're concerned because the way that they're looking at it is that a data center is not like a factory per se. And a factory that comes to town, it can at least employ hundreds of thousands of people after that construction happens. But many data centers require a large construction workforce up front. But once operating, it can run with far fewer permanent jobs compared to the scale of land and power and water that it's going to use. So they're not going to get a return on their investment. And many communities look at that proposal and say, wait a minute, hold on. You want our land, you want our grid capacity, you want our water, and you want our approval, but what exactly are we getting back? And it's not that they're anti-technology. It's because many of them want to be good stewards. And this is happening in real places. This is happening right now. I was reading in Consumer Reports that community opposition blocked or delayed roughly $98 billion in data center projects between March and June of last year, 2025. And there was another report that said 25 data center projects were canceled in 2025 because of the local pushback. And see, this is something that many of these organizations did not plan for. So when we talk about AI growth, we can't just talk about the model. We have to talk about the local government meetings. We have to talk about the zoning boards. We have to talk about the residents showing up and saying, no, you're not going to pull this off, not without giving us answers. And that's the part that most people miss. Many of these organizations, the AI expansion is not only a technology decision, it's a community decision. It's a land decision. It's a utilities decision. And it's a political decision. And here's the line I want to sit with you. AI does not need code to grow. It needs permission. It needs permission. If the people ain't for it, it's not going to happen. This is why when we have these fears that AI is going to do this and AI is going to do that, it's the people that will decide. So now that we understand communities are pushing back, let's talk about something you may already feel in your everyday life: the strain on speed, response time, and capacity. You may be asking, especially lately, why you feel the slowdowns and the latency. Because when we experience the demands growing faster than the infrastructure, we experience the strain. That's why I want to take this back to the everyday experience. Most people, when they use AI, they're not thinking about GPUs, cooling systems, substations, or fiber networks. But they are thinking about, why is this taking us so long? Or why is this taking my system so long? Why is my application spinning over and over and over again? And why did AI response slow down? Why is this video buffering? Why does everything feel like it's working harder than it used to? And the word that we use in IT is latency. And latency is delay. It's the time between asking for something and getting a response back. Now, AI makes latency more complicated because AI requests are heavier than normal internet activity. When you open a basic web page, the system retrieves information. When you stream a video, the system sends media to your device. But when you ask AI to generate something, the system is calculating, it's predicting, it's assembling, and it's responding in real time. And that requires more compute. It requires faster networking. It requires more coordination between systems. And when millions of people are doing that at the same time, the strain becomes visible. And I was thinking strain and time at the same time. Just think about a restaurant. If 20 people walk in and they come in the kitchen and they want something to eat, or they come in the restaurant, they want something to eat, the kitchen can handle that. But if 200 people walk in at once, the kitchen has the same number of cooks, the same ovens, the same servers, And in that scenario, the food is going to slow down. But it doesn't mean that the restaurant forgot how to cook. The cooks didn't forget how to cook. It just means that the demand outpaced the capacity. And that's what's happening today across parts of AI infrastructure. There are GPU constraints, there are power constraints, there are storage constraints, there are networking constraints. Cisco noted that AI workloads require ultra high speed, low latency communication between huge numbers of processing units, and that traditional data centers can struggle to keep pace. They also reported that after GPUs, storage has become another bottleneck for AI data centers, with long lead times and rising pressure as inference grows. And this is why the infrastructure conversation matters. Because when people say AI is moving fast, the demand is moving even faster. Yes, the models are improving, the users are increasing, the companies are deploying AI into products and into workspaces, and our workplace is starting to depend on it. But the infrastructure has to catch up, and that's what we're feeling today. So when you feel that delay, don't just think slow internet. Don't blame it on the internet. Think system pressure. Think demand exceeding capacity. Think roads built for one level of traffic now carrying 10 times the volume. A small delay can reveal a big system under pressure. Now let's talk about the part people feel personally. The part that's most important to us, these jobs and these layoffs. Because there's a hidden cost behind AI and all of these layoffs that we're seeing. It's not only about automation, it's about reallocation. People might think that AI is directly replacing workers, but what's actually happening is infrastructure spending, cloud costs, headcount reallocation, all of these things. So now we need to talk about layoffs, and we need to be careful about how we position and frame this, because this is where fear can take over the conversation, and a lot of people have fear. People hear AI is taking jobs, and yes, some tasks are being automated. Company I just came from, they're automating. Some roles are changing. Some functions will shrink because AI can now handle work that used to require more people. And that's real. I don't want to take away from that. But there's another layer that doesn't get enough attention, because some of these layoffs are not simply because AI replaced the person task for task. Some of these layoffs are because companies are reorganizing around the cost of AI, and that's different. Think about what we just covered. Companies are spending heavily on data centers, on chips, on cloud contracts, on AI research, product integration, security, governance, and talent. And that leads to levels of spending that they did not anticipate, and it creates pressures. And not to mention, I don't know if I want to say this, but half of the stuff they're doing is taking them more time to get it done. So they're spending money, and that money has to come from somewhere. So companies start asking, where can we cut? What teams can be reduced? What projects can be paused? What functions can be centralized? What roles can be combined? What work can be outsourced? and what can be automated later, even if it's not automated today. And that's how AI becomes an indirect driver of layoffs. So that in essence, the worker may not be replaced by a model, not in that exact time or moment, but the organization is shifting capital towards AI infrastructure and AI strategy. And that shift changes the budget. Let me try to make this plain. If a company decides that it needs to spend billions on AI infrastructure, on chips, or cloud capacity, it may reduce the spending elsewhere to protect margins and satisfy investors. And that means that some people are not being replaced by AI. They're being replaced by the cost of building AI. And that's the more mature way to understand what's actually happening. It's like a household making a major investment. If the family decides to buy a house, start a business, or pay for a major repair, they may cut vacations, eating out, or other expenses. And that cut is not because the vacation becomes useless, it's because the money moved to a new priority. And companies today are doing the same thing. They're just doing it at a larger scale. Now, this doesn't mean that every AI is not AI. I'm sorry, every layoff is not AI related. To be honest, some are. But layoffs can also happen because of overhiring, declining revenue, investor pressure, mergers, outsourcing, automation, and leadership decisions. Some somewhat poor, because I guarantee you they're going to be hiring people back. But AI has become part of the restructuring story because companies are trying to fund the future while still managing today's financial expectations. And that's why you can't listen to the headlines. You can't listen to social media and all of these other outlets. You have to start inquiring and asking better questions, different types of questions. Like, is this role actually being automated? Is this company reallocating money towards AI? Is this part of a broader cost reduction? Is the company investing in infrastructure? Or is the company shifting away from people-heavy workflows to tool-supported workflows? And when you understand that, you move different. You stop asking the question, will AI take my job? And you start asking, where is the company investing? And what work is becoming valuable? And how do I position myself on the side of the investment instead of on the side of being reduced? I hope that's making sense. Now, here's the part that balances the story. Even with all this spending, many of these AI projects are not yet working. And that's the real reality check. Many of these AI projects are failing. They're failing. So we got to put some balance in the room. Because if we talk about AI is powerful and expensive and growing, and people may assume every AI project is working because it has all of this power behind it, all of this build up behind it, but it's not. And a lot of these projects are failing. Some of the projects that they are doing, they don't even leave the pilot stage because we're learning. And many of them don't ever reach production. Some of them will create some interesting demos, but they don't improve the business bottom line. And that's where I think, again, companies are coming to a realization, because sometimes the business is not as patient when they got to hit those bottom lines in the revenue. They're not okay, and they can't settle for, excitement in a meeting about an ideal, but a useless workflow that they just simply can't use, or they have to do all of these workarounds to be able to make it work, and that wastes everybody's time. What I saw within our organization, and as I saw AI emerging, is that a lot of these projects were technically impressive, right? People enjoy. I'm telling you, in these teams, they enjoyed innovating. That freshness, that vigor of being able to bounce these ideals out. But a lot of these technically impressive AI solutions were operationally disconnected because they didn't meet the business need. And the reason that matters is because companies are spending massive amounts of money, while still learning how to make AI create measurable value. MIT's 2025 State of AI and Business report stated that despite tens of billions in enterprise Gen AI investment, 95% of organizations were getting zero return. And with only a small share of integrated pilots extracting major value. Listen to this. 95% of these organizations were getting zero return. And the Harvard Business Review also discussed that same MIT finding, describing how many AI pilots fail to deliver bottom line returns when they stay trapped in experimentation and they don't connect to the customer value or to scale. When people say 95% fail, they don't always mean that the technology does nothing. That's not the point. They often mean that the project is not delivering measurable, tangible business value. It may not improve revenue or reduce costs. It may not integrate into the workflow, and it may not change the bottom line. And that distinction matters, because an AI demo can look amazing and still fail as a business project. I've been around that road. But it's a reason why this happens. And what companies are learning is, number one, is with dirty data. Garbage in, garbage out, right? And a lot of the foundation built on the data. Another reason is unclear use cases. Sometimes, because we're building from the abstract and intangible, we don't know the use cases. We know the business. We know the business in the pre-AI or semi-AI world, but the use cases are unclear. Another reason is there's no workflow integration with some of these legacy systems. You're not going to get AI to integrate smoothly. And the most prominent one, I believe, is that employees just don't trust it. They don't trust it. No matter what you say or what you do, they don't trust it. And then these ambitious leaders, they buy tools without changing processes. And they expect people to, to just deal with it. These teams build pilots without no plan, without any scale. And then the models may work in the lab, but not in real operations. And that's the gap. What I've experienced is that it's one thing to ask AI to draft a paragraph. It's another thing to embed AI into a bank, into a hospital, manufacturing, into a school system, into a nonprofit, or a government agency. Because there are risks, there are rules, there are privacy concerns, human behavior, and old systems that do not easily connect. So yes, AI is most definitely powerful. But powerful doesn't mean simple. And powerful doesn't mean fully figured out. And this is where our posture needs to be sober, not fearful, not gullible, but sober. Because we're in a learning curve. Some organizations will waste money chasing the hype, and some will build useful systems. Some will fail fast and recover. Some will fail quietly and pretend like everything is fine. And I know them some. But that's just the reality. That's just the reality of what we're dealing with right now. But I believe that the organizations that find the right balance, they're going to make their way through this. So now we have to ask the big question, is this another bubble? Or is this a rough early stage before the next stable era of AI? Are we in another AI bubble? We got to bring this full circle. Because I know for many of us, this moment should feel very familiar, especially if you listen to my other presentation. New technology shows up, people get excited, money floods in, companies rush to adopt it, investors reward the companies that say the right words, and everybody wants to be early. Nobody wants to look like they're behind. And we saw this with the dot-com boom. In the late 1990s, companies were being funded just because they had internet attached to their story. And at that point, valuations went crazy. People believed anything online was automatically the future. Then the bubble burst. But here's the important part. The internet didn't fail. It was the expectations that failed. The weak businesses failed. The bad models failed. The empty hype failed. But the underlying technology became one of the most important foundations of modern life. And that's the lens that I want us to use with AI. AI is real. The capability is real. The demand is real. The infrastructure is real. The workplace impact is real. But that doesn't mean that every company, every product, every pilot, every investment, or every promise is real. That's where discernment comes in. We may be in an AI bubble in the sense that expectations have run ahead of results. Yet we may also be in the messy middle before AI stabilizes into normal business infrastructure. And both can be true. The danger is not believing AI exists. The danger is believing every AI promise. This also connects us back to the AI winter that we talked about earlier. AI has gone through hype cycle after hype cycle after hype cycle, interest raises, funding raises, and promises rise. Then comes reality, and we get disappointed, and people pull back. So the question now is whether companies will abandon innovation too early, or whether they will mature past the hype and build systems that actually work. That's the tension. And this is why understanding infrastructure matters. Because if AI fails to scale, it may not be because the ideal is weak. It may be because power, water, chips, data, cost, governance, and adoption could not line up fast enough. And that's the deeper story. So where does that leave you? Not scared, not impressed by everything, not late. It leaves you informed. Know this, that you are early enough to understand what's happening and late enough to use tools that already work. And that's a strong place to be in. So now that you understand the system, the power, the data, and the infrastructure, the cost, and the uncertainty, we can finally ask the practical question. How do you use AI in your real life, your work, your business, and your future?